everybody. Salam, khosh aamedin, shao shuma khosh. I'm Shabnam Safa, and Mubaraka Amini tonight will be your MCs. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands of where we have gathered here tonight, the Wurundjeri and Bunurong people of the Kulin Nations, and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. And whilst we're acknowledging, I also want to acknowledge the deep history and connection of First Nations people to this land, and pay our respects also to their culture and care for the land and its waters for over 60,000 years before any of us found our way here. As members of the Hazara community, we're very, very familiar with the pain of dispossession, with the pain of discrimination and injustice. And we hold that. That is the history of Australia. We hold that, and that's what grounds us in our day-to-day advocacy, because there's no justice for anybody until there is justice for the First Nations people. Welcome you all here tonight. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you to the community members. Thank you to our partners and allies and everyone else who has made time to come here tonight and commemorate and remember and honour the lives lost to pointless acts of violence and lives that keep being lost to violence here tonight. No doubt you've all heard what has happened on Tuesday the 19th of April. Once again, two educational centres, Abdul Rahim Shahid High School and Mumtaz Educational Centre in Kabul, Afghanistan, came under coordinated and systematic attacks. Both the centres in Dasht-e-Barchi, the Hazara ethnic neighbourhood in West Kabul. Both coordinated attacks have taken more than 100 lives, but also more than 100 young lives, more than 100 futures lost, and potential for bringing peace and prosperity to a nation that has been bleeding for over 40 years, a nation that has been in conflict for over 14 years. We don't actually know the number of people whose lives have been lost because media is heavily suppressed in the country. The new regime in the country that has come on bans any sort of reporting. We know anecdotally because most of us here tonight have family, most of us here tonight have relatives, and we know what they go through on the ground there, and we take that trauma, we take that grief, and we take that pain with us, and we live with that here. This atrocity and the atrocities that continue to happen, specifically on the Hazara community in Afghanistan, they have an immense impact on the Hazara community here. Each one of us have been deeply and personally impacted by the ongoing persecution of our people, not just since the fall of Kabul in August last year, but for many, many decades and over a century. But this incident of the last week has had significant and severe impacts on the Hazara community in Australia, but particularly the Hazara community that makes such a prominent community in Melbourne's southeast, in the city of Greater Dandenong, in the cities of Casey and Cardinia Shire Local Council, but also across Victoria in the north and west as well. Victorian Hazaras are deeply impacted by these attacks, who have had families and close relatives who were either in the area or whose lives have been lost, and they keep getting targeted over and over again. We cannot deny that it makes actions that constitute as genocide. We've also witnessed further attacks since the two attacks on the educational centres. On Thursday, the 21st of April, targeting a Shia mosque in the city of Mazar-e-Sharif and another in Kunduz, killing and injuring dozens more. Through this vigil tonight, through us coming together here tonight, we're really hoping to raise awareness about the injustices and severity of the injustices that the Hazara people continue to experience in Afghanistan. Demand that the Australian government and the international community recognise this as injustice, and take accountability for the actions that we have had and what role we have played in the last 20 years as a nation in what's going on in Afghanistan right now, and do more to take meaningful action for Afghanistan and its people, whether that's in Afghanistan or here, on those of us who are in Australia. Later on, we'll be talking a little bit about what some of our key asks of this advocacy is, but I do want to quickly mention that we do want those in power, and it's nice to see so many representatives of political parties on all sides of political parties here tonight. We do look forward to hearing from you soon. We do want you to recognise the systemic and targeted killings of Hazaras and Shias in Afghanistan as crimes against humanity, which may also amount to genocide. We want you to support measures aimed at physical protection of Hazaras and Shias in Afghanistan. We want you to not recognise the Taliban as the government of Afghanistan. They have been forced upon us. They're a terrorist regime, they're a terrorist organisation who have terrorised us, our people, our homes, our communities for more than 20 years and are now forced upon us to take them as the new regime. We want them listed as a terrorist organisation under the Commonwealth Criminal Code. But more importantly, whilst the attacks may seem something very far away happening in Afghanistan, there is a lot more we can do right here in Australia right now. There are more than 5,000 Hazaras suffering on temporary protection visas. Their suffrage goes unnoticed, their pain and their grief go unnoticed, and we do want tonight to raise awareness on their plight and also advocate for granting permanent protection to those who are suffering on temporary protection visas and shared visas. We want to bring attention to the unreasonable delay of family reunification applications for several years. Attacks like these could be a death sentence to a family member of a community member here anytime. And we also want to ask for a lifting of the ban on resettlement of refugees in Indonesia. There are around 10,000 refugees from Afghanistan, mostly from the Hazara community, stuck in limbo in Indonesia, unable to come to Australia or go anywhere else to make it their home. Particularly in the month of Ramadan, having events like this, it just makes it so much harder to comprehend that, this ethos of the month of Ramadan, the spirit of the month of Ramadan continues to be violated by a terrorist group that has taken the people of Afghanistan's freedom, their fundamental human rights, their security hostage in the name of the religion Islam for many years, and now that is being done officially. So it's incredibly hard for us to witness that tonight. So once again, thank you for being with us here tonight. Thank you to our community members. Thank you to our allies. And I'm so sorry.